Hello and welcome to this episode of Industry Insights. I'm Varin Senthil, a student at Troy High School in Michigan. For our first-time viewers, I started this podcast for any other person who's like trying to figure out their career path for themselves since there's a lot of like unknown stuff about multiple industries, it'll be a little bit hard to figure out if you actually want to go to that industry. So I'm going to interview a lot of interesting and amazing people to see just to acknowledge more about this field. And today we have Steve Nykerk. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me join. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining. So to start it off, what do you do?
So I'm a sales executive with Siemens, but I've had many careers joining up to this position. I've been in engineering, sales, business development, many different roles, program management, consulting, a lot of hats, actually.
I never heard what Siemens is. Could you elaborate more on what that company is and what they do?
Sure. Siemens is a German-based company. It's one of the top 10 largest companies actually in the world. It's 300,000 plus people. Siemens provides hardware, provides software, and also consulting services for many industries, including healthcare, the energy sector, providing things like meters, smart meters for your home, all kinds of software for development of products, and then a lot of industrial type applications as well.
Okay. Does that mean like they move into the automotive industry as well?
That they do, and that's part of where my role is specifically. Yes, exactly.
Do you like have meetings with other people from different companies? And if you do, what do you guys mostly discuss?
Yeah, so the group I'm involved in is sort of a startup, I'll say. It's kind of unique being in a very large company, but in a group that's sort of starting up on its own. It was born out of a group that did consulting internally for Siemens. So we helped Siemens manufacturing plants, help them operate more efficiently, help them improve some of their things they're doing, have provide some analytics. And it's something called Industry 4.0, thinking about the future of their manufacturing facilities. And so that's been very successful internally to help our own facilities. And so we've now taken that external to other clients, in particular to automotive and healthcare and things like that.
Okay. So I also heard that you also had multiple jobs before this one. What's your
Yep.
favorite job that you've held, and what did you do in that job?
Hmm. Good question. I actually think my favorite job was a sales engineer because it was the best of both worlds for me personally. I started as an engineer. I knew I was good at math and some science, and that was about all I knew at the time, right? So I got into engineering initially. And maybe after 4 or 5 years, I realized this isn't what I wanted to do forever. And so I went back for a MBA, a master's in business in the evening, and that led me into a role in consulting. Um, but along that path, I got into more, I'll say, sales type roles, and a good transition to sales was a sales engineer role. So I kind of had a job where I'm selling, but also delivering some technical support, and got to do a lot of unique like prototypes and worked on some patents and some things like that. So it was a little blend of both business and technology, which was pretty cool.
Okay, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, so I heard that you want to become an engineer. Was there a
hmm
specific type of engineer, like an aerospace engineer, or just overall?
I started just as a mechanical engineer, actually. Again, I knew I was good at math. When I did it 25 years ago, there wasn't as many fields. It was mechanical, civil, electrical. There wasn't even environmental at that time, right? So I just figured mechanical made the most sense. It was broadest and had the most applications to a lot of different jobs, and I could figure it out later, kind of thing. So that's where I started.
Quick question. What's the difference between like a mechanical engineer and a civil engineer?
Yeah, mechanical engineers kind of studying motion, I'll say, more than anything, kinematics and things like that. Whereas a civil engineer, they're involved with, I'll say, bridges and the ecological impacts of the environment. They're involved in a lot of city construction projects and things like that. So a little different type of engineering,
Okay, yeah, thank you.
more infrastructure, I would say.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
hmm
The next question I have is, do you think it actually matters if you're an introvert or extrovert to get into to get into to get into the profession that like you're in right now?
so No. I am an introvert, I would say, by and as most engineers seem to be, right? Anybody who sort of has that technical background likes to be an introvert. And I've learned that that just means when I need to recharge my batteries, I need some alone time. Doesn't mean I can't talk to people. Doesn't mean I can't present a new idea. Doesn't mean I can't, lead a conversation. I just know that when I get worn out, I need to go for a run or I need some time alone to do something to kind of recharge my batteries. That's all an introvert has meant to me. So sometimes like a trade show is hard where you've got to be on your feet and talking to people for hours. That gets exhausting for me. I got to be able to sneak away for 15 minutes and just kind of unwind. That's really been the only impact of being an extrovert versus an introvert. You can still do a heck of a lot of things as an introvert. So
Okay.
I bet
Thank-
Elon Musk is an introvert if you would ask him, right? Like, but he knows how to put on a show when he has to. So
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that because I know a lot of people who are introverts and extroverts. And from what I've heard from my friends, they actually decide their jobs based purely on that because they rather
hmm
feel comfortable in their jobs than a job that they really don't want to be in.
yeah, interesting.
Um, the next question I have is what's the one piece of advice you'd give to someone else that's starting out in your career?
Uh, it might be. Don't base your job based on an extrovert or introvert. Honestly, I think what's a good piece of advice? Honestly, now that I'm playing more of a sales role, I think I've learned that you need to be yourself. Don't try to be someone you're not. And if that's an introvert, but yet you still can convey a message, do that and be proud of that. And that's been effective for me. Like I've learned to build a niche as a very, I'll say, pretty strong trusted advisor with my clients. I'm not going to try and sell them something. I can't sell ice to an Eskimo, but I can tell a client like, hey, I think you might want to consider this and not this approach because I've built some credibility with them. And I think each person has their own kind of unique skills that can do the same kind of thing in many different roles, right? So leverage your strengths. Don't worry about being different and go after it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I think that's a really great piece of advice for a lot of people because I know for myself,
hmm
I want to go to the medical like into a medical like area,
Yeah.
but I'm not really sure what I want to be because I'm not that really like into like talking to random strangers for like a
Yeah.
long period of time.
Yeah.
So I'm not that sure about being a doctor. So I actually want to go into a pharmaceutical type role or just making medicines instead.
Okay. And I'll bet you change your mind 3 times before you're done too, Varn. So be, I maybe one piece of advice is as you think about schools and such, don't lock in necessarily. Like take a lot of classes to see what makes of most interest to you, right? Like
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of pressure to kind of perform and pick something early, but know that you're going to make a change too, right? And be ready to pivot. And the more exposure you can get to other fields, the better. So
Thank
I
you.
think you got to by even doing this podcast, I can see you're thinking about it thoroughly. So that's what's pretty cool.
Thank you for that. That's very nice of you. Another quick question I have is how long
Mhm.
do you think someone have to be in college or like have to be in school and what they need to study for in order to go after a profession like you?
Zero, candidly. Um, College prepares you more emotionally than it does for positions, I think, right? You learn how to work with people, you learn a lot of teaming aspects, you learn a lot of maturing as a person. It doesn't mean you're going to be a better employee in any job you do, candidly, from my perspective. Yes, you're going to learn some specific skill, but you can do that in a trade school, in a community college. Like that doesn't matter to me. Having a degree on a wall probably doesn't make a whole lot of difference. I,
You left off about where you were talking about it doesn't really matter if you go to community college or like to a prestigious one. Could you elaborate further on that?
yeah, sure. So I think experience matters more than a degree and then a piece of paper. I think people can learn in any environment. Because I have a degree doesn't mean I think that I'm more a better salesperson than the person who's done it themselves too. So um, I just think experience is more important, especially in a sales role, than a degree. And trying things out, you got to experiment. You got to learn what works for you. Like I said, for me, it's been becoming a trusted advisor and knowing how to um, have a client understand what my position and how to present it best and earn their trust. That's worked for me. a college degree didn't help 1 cent with that, right? It was more of maturing as a person and learning how to do some of the things that fit my personality.
So would you recommend someone trying to get a degree just to get all that maturing, or do you recommend them to do something else instead?
No, I think a degree is a good starting point. Like I have twin daughters who are just starting their freshman year in college now, right? And I think that's the right path for them. Um, but they're not sure what their long-term degree is going to be or what their long-term passion is yet, right? So it's a good time to understand that and explore that further. But someone who thinks like I'm going to be a good carpenter doesn't need to go to college. Why take the time, and in 6 months they can be doing really well financially because college is expensive, right? So I don't know that college is the right answer for everyone, candidly. If you don't know, I think it is a good spot to mature and to explore options. Absolutely.
Okay. What's another question I have is there a common myth about your job or field of expertise? And if so, is it true?
Hmm. I think in sales, there's definitely a myth that people are kind of slimy, like they're going to try to like you know take advantage of you. I'll say, and there is some truth to that. I've seen that in specific personality traits for some people. But by and large, the best, most successful salespeople have earned their trust of their client and are doing what's right for their client at the end of the day. If you do what's right for them to be successful and for their company to be successful, that's how you are successful too, right? So you don't need to be a slimy person. You don't have to try to make some deal happen that shouldn't happen. You do what's right at the end of the day, and you'll be rewarded for it. So I think that's probably the biggest myth about salespeople.
Yeah, I also had that little thing in my mind where because most of my friends were like, "Yo, salespeople are kind of slimy. They're kind of trying to take advantage of you
Yeah.
to get money." And I know
Yes.
some of my other friends who also have like who know people that are in the sales business, and they did tell me
Yep.
that. So that's it's good to know that that's actually true. So thank you.
Yeah, but I think if you have a technical end of sales, that's less slimy, maybe, right? And there's some credibility behind it. So maybe that's a good niche too. So
Yeah.
you got to pick your spot.
Another
Yeah.
thing about your job is what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite part of your job?
Probably flexibility and travel. Honestly, I like travel. So I was at a client facility in Kentucky last week. I'll be at a client facility in Nashville, Tennessee next week. I enjoy, exploring the world a bit. I'm not having to pay for it so much on my own dollar. So that part is really rewarding. I enjoy the flexibility of working from home, working at a client facility, working in my office. Every day is different, right? I would have a very hard time going back to when I was an engineer, sitting in an office 9 to 5. That would be tough for me right now. I've enjoyed flexibility and a chaotic day, which now I'm used to. So
Okay. Um, what's your how open is like the field? Is there like a lot of people who want to go into sales engineering, or is there like not that many?
I think it's not as many on an engineering. There's less technical salespeople um, than there are out there, right? There's a lot of gaps in the job market these days, but that's definitely one of them. There aren't as many strong technical salespeople. Um, so yeah, there's plenty of opportunity in that space.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your career path and answering those questions. It
Yeah.
honestly helped me out. I know it's going to help a lot of other people out. So thank you so much for that. Um, once again, like I know I said this like two times already, but seriously, thank you for like coming. And I'm actually very interested in learning about more career paths, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my other friends, yeah, I know some of my friends that wanted to go into like some sort of sales role.
Hmm.
So I'll definitely tell them more about technical sales.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Varin, was a pleasure to be part of your early efforts, and much success for you. I hope it goes well.
Thank you for joining, and you're welcome.
All right. All right. Take care.
Take care.